Similar to the scene of the transfiguration, today we also see Jesus go to the top of the mountain to have a moment of prayer and intimacy with his Father. And the fruit of this prayer is going to be the 12 apostles. So as we see Jesus pray in the night, I think there are useful insights that we can take for our own lives. The first insight is, before an important decision, take a time for prayer. Before Jesus chose the 12 apostles, he took that whole night for prayer. The question is, when we have to face hard decisions, do we take a good time for prayer before we make those decisions? Also, the night is supposed to be the moment where we rest and we gather new strength for the next day. But when Jesus prays during the night, he is showing us that he finds his rest in prayer. That when he is with his Father, he feels refreshed and he feels that is the right place where to rest. So a second insight is, do we find in prayer rest? Do we find in prayer a place where we're cold and where we need, as much as we need sleep in the night, because prayer is a place where we rest? But there is something that I think is especially important for us to notice. The apostles, the future bishops and priests, were the fruit of the prayer of Jesus that night. This means that the apostles and the bishops of the 21st century are going to be the fruit of the prayer of the church. Let me repeat that. In the same way that the apostles came from the prayer of Jesus, of his heart praying, the apostles and the bishops and the priests of this century will come from the prayer of the church. So today, brothers and sisters, I want to remind you, each household has to be a place for prayer for vocations. Because if there's no prayer for vocations, there will be no apostles. So I think that a good question for you would be, is my household a place of prayer for vocations? Is it something normal for my family to gather to pray for future priests, for future bishops, for future nuns? And I want to take one step further. I think that it is the duty of parents to pray with their kids for vocations, but also to encourage their kids to take the pathway of vocation, either priesthood or religious life. I know that normally Catholic parents tell their kids, I won't oppose if you decide to be a priest. But I think that I won't oppose is not enough. I think that in this moment of the church, parents are supposed to say, not only I don't oppose, but they should say, this is what the church needs. Imagine that the country you loved went to a war, and they were in a war, and the country needed soldiers. If you were a real patriot, you would take to yourself, encouraging your kids, it is time to give your life for the country. I think that in the same way, Catholic parents should pray for vocations, but should also encourage vocations, not only tolerate them, but they should encourage vocations. But especially, let's look at the text today and remind ourselves, in the same way as the apostles were the fruit of that night of prayer for Jesus, the apostles, the 21st century, are going to be the fruit of the prayers of the church.